B capitalized is also the Black Entertainment Television Network. It represents the absolute pinnacle of cultural and entertainment success in this specific space.
Right.
The narrator saying they gambled everything they had, their peace, their privacy, their sleep, all of it on reaching the top of this specific mountain. They are chasing what the song calls the dream of gold, trying to reach the stage of lights, baby we put on Vogue.
It is the ultimate arrival at the peak of culture.
But living in 4K.
Right, living in 4K and 3D on that stage of lights is blinding. Which brings us to a line that stops you right in your tracks.
It really does.
In the middle of all this high-definition bragging and talk about arriving on the stage of lights, the narrator drops this realization: if I gain the world but lose my soul, then I know my heart grew cold.
It is a devastating pivot, and it echoes a very famous ancient text, specifically the biblical verse of Mark 8.36, which asks, what it profits a person to gain the whole world but forfeit their soul.
Yeah.
What we are seeing in this modern transcript is that the core human fear hasn't changed in 2,000 years. It is the paralyzing fear of success fundamentally changing who you are. The narrator has essentially done the math on their own ambition.
They've looked at the dream of gold.
Right, and realized that the currency of the soul is far more valuable. But it is also far more vulnerable to inflation and corruption when you hit that stage of lights.
He's basically saying the higher you climb, the more expensive your morals get. And
Yes.
he describes the paralysis of that realization so vividly. Toe-to-toe, when nobody knows, I'm stuck in a circle. The world froze.
It's a powerful image.
I want you to really picture that for a second. Have you ever worked endlessly for something? A degree, a career milestone, a specific relationship, achieved the goal, and then stood there feeling entirely empty? You're going toe-to-toe with your own internal demons, and nobody on the outside has a clue, because to them you just look like a massive success story.
That is the ultimate paradox of the life I chose. Inside, the narrator is stuck in a circle. They are trapped in a repetitive, exhausting loop of simply maintaining the success they fought so hard for, while their internal world has completely frozen. The traditional tools that got them out of the dust, the relentless hustle, the grinding, pushing all the chips to the center of the table, those tools are completely useless against this new problem.
Because you can't hustle your way out of spiritual emptiness.
Precisely. You cannot put your soul on D&D to fix a cold heart. The song recognizes that a completely different mechanism is required to break out of that frozen circle.
And that search for a new mechanism leads us to the song's incredibly moving shift in tone. The narrator realizes they cannot manage this alone anymore. The hustle has failed them.
The turning point.
They start looking to the man upstairs to reach perfection, asking just for a touch. But there is one specific plea in this prayer that caught me completely off guard. The narrator says, I told God, just search my heart. Bring me back to the very start. Bring it all up like Z. What does like Z mean in this context? It feels so out of place compared to the traditional prayer language happening in the rest of the stanza.
Well, if we look back at the established technological motifs throughout the track,
Right.
the 4K, the 3D, the DND, like Z operates as a brilliant modern metaphor for hitting Ctrl Z on a computer keyboard.
Oh, wow. The universal keyboard shortcut for undo.
Exactly that. The desire to execute a universal undo command on your own life is a profound admission of vulnerability.
It really is.
The narrator is making a desperate wish to literally undo the damage. They want to undo the moral compromises they made while chasing the stage of lights, to revert the file back to its original uncorrupted state at the very start.
That is such a clever way to frame repentance for a modern audience. It's not just asking for forgiveness, it is asking for a system reset.
And what follows that plea is incredibly vivid, miraculous imagery. Because to survive the life I chose at this level of burnout, the narrator realizes that a minor daily adjustment or a new wellness routine isn't going to cut it. They need a transformation that defies logic.
A true miracle.
They describe this required intervention as seeing a dead man take a walk again and a blind man going to see. These are classic, heavy metaphors for spiritual resurrection and sudden, profound clarity.
It's a full-blown miracle they're asking for, and the resolution of this internal battle presents a fascinating contrast to the beginning of the song. After all the pressure, after clawing out of the dust, after the hustle and gambling all the chips, the narrator finally experiences the power of divine grace.
The shift in perspective.
They say, you took my feet up from the bottom, and then they note that they got a seat at the table for free.
Yeah.
Think about the contrast there. Earlier, everything was a massive gamble. Everything had a brutal cost. Now, the most valuable thing they possess, which is peace of mind, is given to them for free.
That line fundamentally shifts the entire narrative arc. Earlier, every single step forward was earned through grinding pressure. But salvation or spiritual grounding cannot be bought with the silver to gold they've accumulated. It is freely given. And the narrator's response to this realization is complete surrender. The transcript concludes with the line, "Since you saved me, let this overtake me." It is a willing relinquishment of the frantic white-knuckled control they had to maintain to escape the dust. They no longer need to manage the noise or fight the pressure. They are allowing grace to overtake them.
Let this overtake me. It is such a powerful surrender, especially when you contrast it with the earlier anxiety of fighting just to catch some ZZs and putting the world on D&D. Now they're inviting this spiritual rescue to completely wash over them.
It's total acceptance.
As we look back at the emotional journey of this deep dive, it is clear that Kai Uriah's lyrics are doing so much more than just telling a standard rags to riches story. This is a raw, unflinching look at the massive psychological responsibility that comes with ambition.
Absolutely.
It is about owning the reality of the life I chose, but recognizing that you have to constantly check the mirror. You have to monitor your internal temperature to ensure your soul hasn't grown cold while you are busy conquering your own personal world.
This raises an important question, one that the song quietly asks us to reflect on long after the music stops. The narrative suggests that true success isn't simply the act of escaping the dust. That is just the prerequisite.
Right.
True success is about something much harder. It is about remembering how to maintain your innocence, how to be the one lamb to the sheep, even when you are standing in high-definition 4K right in the center of the stage of lights. It's the challenge of retaining your humanity when your environment has become entirely synthetic and transactional.
It is the ultimate balancing act, and it brings us right back to you listening to this right now. We all have our own version of the dust, that place or situation we are terrified of returning to, and we all have our own version of the 4K stage, the goals we are obsessively chasing. So I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over today. If your own life, your daily routines, and your deepest ambitions were playing out on repeat in high-definition 3D, what external noise would you need to put on D&D today so you don't lose yourself?
That's a great question.
And if you actually possessed the power to hit Ctrl-Z to protect your core values, how far back to the very start would you need to go? Think about it. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.